There it is, live. I still remember the NFL today, and you are looking live at House Transportation here on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. There are some adjustments to the agenda you'll see. The goal here over the next however many days it takes, we're on the miscellaneous motor vehicle bill, and we went over it on kind of a 30,000 foot level. And now our ledge council in the afternoons for the next X number of days as it takes is going to go section by section for the detail piece, for you a chance to ask questions in detail, and then identify anybody else that we want to hear from in the section. But this is the in the weeds portion. We're going to go till 1:30. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to pick back up with it and keep going. We're going to take another break at 2:45, and we'll have Senator Westman come in and tell us at a 30,000 foot level what it was he was trying to accomplish with these 30 some odd sections. So that is the general plan for the next X number of days. And as we get through that, I'll be touching base with everybody to see what else. And that's exactly it. We'll touch base with everybody else in the committee if they have any, what else is on top of these 30 sections. So we do have some pieces that other people, committee members have asked for that we'll do in testimony. So with that long-winded piece and my disappointment that for representative from Poultney that UConn didn't quite make it, I'm sure. I appreciate you showing up to work today instead of grieving. So Daniel, welcome back to committee. Now we're going into the weeds.
All right. Thank you for having me. For the record, I'm Damian Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel. I'll pull the bill up behind me here.
Oh, and my one more comment on that. I considered, unless without sections 1 through 6 related to the detainees and issues that went through corrections, is also the same language as is in the other House bill that we already passed. We're not going into the weeds in those sections. One absent objection, we're not going into the weeds on sections 1 through 6. Since it's been vetted by multiple committees and other bills in the Senate. We will leave it in the bill until such time we decide whether we need to leave it in this vehicle or deal with the other one. And we may or may not end up removing it.
So on those sections, I just want to note that doing a compare text on the computer, we did find that there are 2 words that don't actually change the meaning, but there are 2 words missing in the miscellaneous DMV bill that are in the corrections bill. And as it is right now, if they both passed, the words would go into the statute because they don't contradict the other language. But if you keep them in here, I'll correct those in your final version just to make it consistent. So section 7, currently the Department of Motor Vehicles, if you pay for your registration or your license with a check and the check bounces and you don't pay the department the amount that's due when you get notice that your check bounced, and it's within 30 days of getting that notice, they have the authority to suspend your license or your registration until you pay. Now that many of these payments are being made by credit card or debit card, they've asked for the authority to extend that to electronic funds transfers, including a credit or debit charge. So in other words, the charge is authorized as a pending charge, but then too many charges are made on the account and the charge gets rejected by the time it actually clears the bank electronically.
So is this just for fees you're paying for licensing registration? I mean, there must be other fees you pay too that it could.
Yeah, so
let's say a title. And
it says it's for any fee or it's for any payment tendered to the department. The commissioner then has the authority to suspend your license or registration. The examples that were given were generally related to payments for licenses and registration. I think Probably because those are the most common payments that the department takes.
Potentially, you might have to pay for a title, the check bounces. Maybe you don't even have a license and registration, I don't know, but that's the
Right.
tool they have, I guess. This
Yeah.
will give them that tool.
And then essentially it prohibits the commissioner from reinstating that license or registration until payment's been made in full after that point.
President Keith?
If somebody pays with a credit card, does the state out that percentage, are they? Not trying to step
Oh,
too far away, but the service charge?
I believe the state is out that percentage, but the deputy commissioners here, I'm seeing him nod his head, so.
Matt Russo, the Commissioner for EMV. For the record, right now, as it stands, the state for EMV pays, the fee.
Is it 2 or 3%, is it, or something like that?
Sorry.
Does that add up pretty good?
It can, it ends up.
1.9 million.
I wonder if in the future we should try to recoup that somehow or another. It's funny, I thought about asking that once before and I slipped my mind.
Excuse me. My understanding is that we're changing it so that we're going to charge the fee up front at the time of the transaction, recover that portion of the fee. But this would be on a case that then when it in effect bounced, there would be that fee. But the way we're moving forward is we're going to start collecting the fee as part of the transaction. But it was about 1.9 million that we had been not collecting. Trying to, I want to say be fair, you want people to use more DMV and my DMV account, et cetera, promotion to go online, get rid of all the mail processing and whatnot. And there was a waiving of that sort of to try to, now it's sort of an accepted practice that vendors are charging more and more for the fees. And moving forward, that credit card transaction fee is going to be part of what you pay up front when you do the transaction. I guess if it bounces, you're out the money and the fee. But in the future, it'll include that fee.
There's a service charge if you bounce a check though, right? The
Yeah.
bank, and do we do the same thing? Not that I want to stay in the weeds on this
So
one.
this is weeds.
Yeah, so that's gonna depend on your account agreement with your bank. And that is entirely separate from the law here. As far as the department goes, off the top of my head, I can't remember if there is an insufficient funds fee. Is there, Matt?
There is, so, I thought you were talking about credit card fees.
No, I was talking about that.
So there is so where this stemming from is that we're getting charged by the banks. And we statutorily can't do anything if that's not a check. So that's the change that we're asking for, is to include other forms of payment. That we're getting charged for by banks because it's.
So right now you have a process for checks bounce. You want that process to be extended for if credit cards or ACH transfers don't go through. We have an existing process, specifically mentions checks, and you're trying to expand it to be more encompassing of basically any kind of payment. That's what a credit card is. I've heard such a thing.
So the way that could work is if there's a delay in the transactions hitting the credit card. So if you've ever looked at your statement, oftentimes you'll see transactions listed as pending. And sometimes it's not the actual amount of the charge that hits it for whatever reason. I don't understand that, but this is contemplating that if you make a bunch of charges on your card in one day, some of them may go through before they all kind of accrue and the bank says you've zeroed out your account.
If you go to the grocery store, immediately it's gonna not like,
Yeah.
okay, not all systems work like that. There is a delay on some.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? 0.0001% of a transfer, like how, is this, I don't know, it's weird that we're
Yeah,
making law
Yeah.
over like maybe one case that we had.
The ACH transfer is probably the most likely scenario.
Oh.
Is that, because that's a direct debit from your account.
Yeah.
Unlike the old days with your credit or your checkbook, where you're hopefully keeping track of your balance as you write checks.
Yeah.
In this case, folks may not be tracking the balance in their account, and then they they authorize it, not realizing that, you know, their mortgage payment got cashed late or something like that.
Yeah, you ever run into problems like somebody's like on their way to Florida, but they mail their check and, you know, do what they think they're supposed to do and, you know, it bounces, and then you mail them saying it bounced, but they're not there, they don't get their mail for it. Yeah, we're talking about a small percentage for this, there's a small percentage happen where people think they're doing the right thing and, you know,
Yeah.
they're down for, the winter, they're in Florida, down in Florida.
For their cases like that. They don't give the letter. We give them clear dates.
Yeah,
All right.
I do that.
Okay, is there other questions on this section? Is there a consumer protection area that we need to hear from? Is there somebody that would be concerned at all about this change in policy as it affects homeowners? It's sort of I guess I view it as a change to kind of recognize the way that money has changed today compared to the way it used to, but is there any concern for anyone that there's a underrepresented piece that would have a problem with this? Okay. Represented White?
Yeah, and pardon me if I missed it, this conversation, but so this is talking about, a letter, let's see, goes to the person about their insufficient funds. Written notice if it's not big. Are we saying, is that, snail mail, or is it email, or is it both, or?
It does not specify. I would defer to the department to explain how they currently send the notice.
Notices are sent through snail mail, but with my DMV, they also have the option to receive it electronically.
And do we need to put anything in, add any language to allow that to happen? Because to Representative Corcoran's point, if you're in Florida, you're not getting your mail, but you're probably still getting your email.
The definition of mail was changed, I think a couple of.
Yeah, so if we changed shall send, I mean, shall send a written notice is broad.
Broad enough to be,
It would encompass it. If you wanted to say shall mail a written notice, that would include snail mail, email, and other electronic notice.
and the consumer just has to enable their My DMV to receive those kinds of notices. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So section 8, this is the penalty for driving an oversized vehicle into Smuggler's Notch and getting stuck, or a stuckage in Smuggler's Notch. So 10,000 up from $1,000 to $10,000 as the penalty for entering the notch with an oversized vehicle, and up from $2,000 to $20,000 if you get stuck and substantially impede the flow of traffic, which if you get stuck, you have substantially impeded the flow of traffic with the way the notch is. And then second or subsequent conviction within a 3-year period is a double penalty, so 20 or 40,000. The penalty goes to the employer if the operator is operating the vehicle in the scope of their employment, or it goes to the operator of the vehicle if it's a personal vehicle or being operated for personal purposes. So if you drive your RV in there, you're going to pay the fee. If you drive your employer's truck in there, your employer is on the hook. So,
Just a couple questions. I thought a couple years ago it was to both parties, one driving and to the employer. Is that a shift?
this is existing law except for the change in the penalty
I
amounts.
saw for some reason online. Yeah, I guess
There's
there's
a big discussion about whether it's the driver or the company.
Yeah, and I thought we did both because we wanted to make sure both had, you know, basically skin in the game. They would be penalties, but maybe it never finished. Obviously, it didn't finish it across the finish line.
And both these problems could be fired.
Yeah.
Probably his last day.
But I guess my second question is, obviously these are extreme increases. At what point is it become illegal on our part? Like, just say, 'cause I think I threw out $1 million, you know, like,
Yeah.
and what level?
So the constitutional test on this, there isn't a lot of great case law in Vermont
You know,
on this, which is not a surprise. Vermont frequently doesn't have a lot of case law, but the general test is that there has to be a rational relationship between the amount of the penalty and the harm caused by the violation. And so this falls under the same constitutional provisions that prohibit cruel and unusual punishment. So the question downstairs is, or that they asked, and they asked the same thing, was, if we increase this, is someone going to sue us for constitutionality? And I can't answer whether someone will or won't sue. But because the cost to remove a truck from there can easily go into the tens of thousands of dollars, and shut down a major road for hours and tie up emergency services, et cetera, the feeling downstairs was that this is rationally related to enough of an extent that there isn't concern. And I think my legal opinion is that this is defensible. I can't guarantee how a court's going to come out. I'm not a judge. I'm not hearing this case, but I think when you lay out the cost to the public of a vehicle getting stuck in the notch, that there is support for this penalty without it crossing into the cruel and unusual level. It is also a question for all of you, though. Downstairs, they heard my legal opinion, they evaluated the issue and decided that this was reasonable. Question for all of you is, do you agree?
yeah, and maybe we should have somebody in from who does these towings and see what they charge, so we'll put that on record.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they did.
Yeah, there's, when this occurs, my understanding from the testimony downstairs is it's emergency services. It's a specialized towing vehicle that has to get called out and go up to the notch. And it can take the better part of a day to get the vehicle free of the notch.
Yeah.
During which time everyone who uses it has to go the long way around. So,
It's a health and safety issue.
What about the tremendous curiosity of all the great news stories from Boston and New Jersey about what a bizarre place it is, and, the continued visitation? We shoot ourselves in the foot by not increasing this tourism activity, the curiosity of the great notch stuckage. So, we don't want to go too far down. It's got to happen at least once or twice a year, or we lose the free news coverage in the media. Somebody had their hand up besides
I did.
my nonsense.
Just a comment, there should be a giant sign before that with that $20,000 push, but I can't imagine anybody going through there after they reconstructed that 2 years ago. You got the S curves, you got signs everywhere. It's amazing that they would still proceed.
someone did go around the chicane.
Yeah, they did.
They just got into the other lane
Around it now.
going.
Yeah,
So
They're
they're,
firsthand, if it's at night, when you're done your shift from working at Stowe and you're coming home, you go up the straight side, and then when you get to the other end, you go down out the straight side, when you can tell there's no headlights, it gets much faster.
they should be heavily
They drive
funded
through
because
this
that's
thing on a
kind of
regular basis.
ridiculous that they
In the summer.
advance through that series.
It's Friday already, it feels punchy, and it is true, but the chicanery works unless you go on the wrong side of it.
I haven't seen it. I'd like to go look at that sometime.
Field trip,
That's right.
Yeah.
Field trip it is.
I like where you're thinking.
It is a good one. Bring a picnic basket.
I love it when the committee comes together.
I haven't, I know I went over there a long time ago with my motorcycle, but I haven't seen since they reconfigured it.
No excuse for it now.
Well, consider that if there was a stoppage, you couldn't go through there on your motorcycle.
You'd have a hard time in some places getting by on your motorcycle, getting it stuck. You'd have to be, there are sections not as wide as this table. It's less wide as this table is long.
Hell of a bike ride.
All right.
okay.
What's the suggestion for testimony? I have made a note. Any other comments or concerns?
All right. Salvage titles. So,
You're quite a bit on this.
yep. So as you may or may not have heard at this point, this relates to the transfer of ownership for a vehicle when it has been totaled. And so basically the insurance company has paid out the full value of the vehicle. And then this allows for electronic documents to be used to transfer the ownership to the insurance company at that point. So these documents don't require notarized signature. They can be signed electronically and they can be printed on a hard copy. The signed electronically definition is quite long. So the first sentence that I'm highlighting now is our standard Vermont definition of what an electronic signature is. So you are signing the record using an electronic sound, symbol, or process that is associated with the record and indicates that it's executed or adopted by that person. The electronic signature language in the second half here that gets into the National Institute of Standards and Technology's June 2017 Digital Identity Guidelines. This relates to the federal standards for these signatures. This is not a particularly high standard for an electronic signature, but it brings you into line with the minimum federal requirements for the quality of these signatures. So there is, I believe, levels 0 through 4 or 1 through 5, if I remember right. And this is level 2. So you're looking at a intermediate or low intermediate standard for the security features on these signatures. Supporting documents, bills of sale, title, odometer disclosures, and powers of attorney. And then language in here that provides that an insurer shall indemnify and hold harmless the department for any claims arising from the issuance of that salvage certificate of title pursuant to that section. I think the department asked for that language, I think, just to ensure that there's no secondary claim that comes out of someone disputing the electronic signature or something like that.
I jump in here to say that I have heard from a couple of different areas related to this last section C, that there's some concern about, does it indemnify the department too broadly? And there's some back and forth going on. There is, I will let you know, this section is far from closed at this point, that there's some discussion. I don't know how major it is. I just want to say that there's some proposed other language that may hit the table or not, but that's in progress. If there is concern on that section C. Also, we did hear some testimony from the department on the whole need for these salvage titles. And through that process, we've also heard a request. We're going to hear from the originator. This was not DMV requested original language. It came out of one of the salvage. And we're going to hear some testimony via the Zoom from the origin of why the language is needed and how this is going to help commerce move smoother and more efficiently. And then we'll hear about some potential concerns on that section C. Unless there's other questions about it, though, that also need to be answered, now would be the time to mention it. So if you have other concerns or anybody else you want to hear from on this, otherwise, I'm going to tell you that we're now going to break for 15 minutes and we'll be back. We're adjourned.